You talk like you're some kind of business expert. We know how that went for you.
No. You need to get over your victim's complex about everyone centres on you.
You went bankrupt.
No, I didn't.
Oh.
Don't say silly things that can get you into trouble.
You're a journalist.
I'm not a journalist.
Yes, you are. You're a disc jockey.
No,
Boxing,
and you're
body
your
control.
dad's son whose business you've inherited. Not even you, in your most brazen snake-oil salesman guise, could get away with delaying this particular one.
Mr. Jordan, I hope you're feeling up to it. I hope you're feeling ready, because the man opposite has arrived in the scene again, and it's the chairman of Matchroom Sport, and he's Eddie Hearn. Eddie, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning. And, just heard Simon's news there, listening to the radio, and wish a speedy recovery, genuinely.
Thank you, mate.
And well done.
Mr.
Yeah,
Hearn.
absolutely. No, well done for that. Actually, funnily enough, won't go on too much about it, but my old man is a massive he will get himself tested for everything.
Really?
Everything. He's one of them. Go and do this. Go and get your heart done. Go and get your liver done. Go and get, and it's right. If you have the opportunity to, can save your life. So best wishes, mate, and speedy
Thank you,
recovery.
mate.
Good. Okay. Now. Here we go. No, Eddie, good words, and many people are agreeing with you with that, with Simon. Eddie, Robert Helenius will fight Anthony Joshua on Saturday night here in London. How did you arrive at him?
Firstly, obviously, received the news. I was on the East Coast time. The official news come in. The first we heard about it was around 1 o'clock in the morning, Saturday morning, and got the news that Dillian Whyte had adverse finding in his VADA test. Couldn't believe it. It was like deja vu all over again, and total shock. And then from there, you have to go to work. The first thing you have to do, and we didn't get an opportunity to do it till the morning, was to speak to Anthony Joshua. I wasn't sure whether he'd want to fight. What I got was someone that was desperate to fight, and not just saying it, but this has been one of the best camps he's had in his career. He's been working so well with Derek James. His sparring's been fantastic, and he just said to me, "Who can I fight?" And from there, you go out and you go into the wild west of who wants it, who doesn't want it, who's trying to get some exposure, who's trying to make a fortune. And we wanted someone who could prepare him for Deontay Wilder. We wanted someone who was credible. We wanted someone that would come to fight. We wanted someone that we could do a deal with at pace, and that's important when you've got 6 days to go till a fight. And we got to Robert Helenius, who we know has had some big wins in America. Got chinned by Wilder, but came to fight, and that's why he got chinned. And I don't think it's a disgrace to get knocked out like that. But most importantly, was in shape, boxed on Saturday, got a stoppage victory. He had 2 good wins on Fox in America. I think one was on pay-per-view as well. He's a decent fighter. Beat Derek Chisora, lost to Dillian Whyte on points. He's a credible guy. 6'9", can punch a bit as well. And I think it's a good test for AJ to see where he's at after the Franklin bout.
Is he as good as you could get? Is that what you're saying?
I think within the time frame, within the the deals that were available, and you sometimes you get told Andy Ruiz wanted it. And
did he come in at the conversation?
No, he put a tweet out on social media, never contacted us. Or the teams or the management team. But also you're talking about a guy who wants probably, 10 million, whatever it is, to fight AJ. He's not going to get on a plane on Monday or Tuesday and go through that process. We also understand the whole pay-per-view argument. We have done, and we are taking the fight off pay-per-view. The financial difference for Joshua in this fight is astounding. But he wants to fight. And, in terms of non-pay-per-view cards, I think this is probably one of the strongest we've ever done. Okay. Chisora against Washington, Hrgovic against Dempsey McKean, Johnny Fisher in his first title fight. No one can moan about that. But we're in a situation where, unfortunately, we have to deal with it. We all wanted to see the Dillian Whyte fight. But at the same time, Anthony Joshua says, I've trained for 12 weeks. I want to fight Deontay Wilder next, and I want to fight on Saturday.
Well, Eddie, to be fair, Simon, you actually were expecting some sympathy, if you like, for Eddie and the predicament he found himself in.
I was expressing some sympathy.
Yeah,
because it's not easy, is it? Eddie tells us that the results, the information that he got was on the Saturday. I'll be curious to know when the tests were actually taken, and if that is indeed the fact, then those are the facts, and it puts him in a cleft position, doesn't it? There's other people out there like Martin Bacoli that you could have spoken to and perhaps had a conversation with about whoever he puts in this situation. Someone, somewhere, some segment of people are going to turn around and say, that's not good enough. The challenge is what do you do? Is Helenius someone that I would expect Anthony Joshua to deal with? Yes, I would. Is the challenge putting him into a fight of someone that he hasn't prepared for? we are watching the rebuilding of Anthony Joshua. Irrespective of whether I think certain things about Anthony Joshua, he does need an element of rehabilitation to get him to a point where he can go into the top table with the top guys, whether that's Deontay Wilder, whether it's Tyson Fury, Anthony, or whether it's Alexander Usyk again at some point. And it's not unreasonable for him to have had this fight with Dillian Whyte. It's a proper good fight, that one. I think most people saw it in its merits and how it got, and I didn't like the idea of ridiculous things like rematch clauses in there, but we got there in the end. But I think it's unfair. And I'm quite happy to have a go at him, but I think it's unfair to turn around to him now and say, well, you know, whatever you put, I didn't like the idea it was Chisora. I don't think Helenius. I think Helenius is at the back end of his career and it's cannon fodder. But notwithstanding that, he could have perhaps delayed the fight, could have pushed it back a couple of weeks. That might be an argument that people could have made.
It's difficult to do that when you've trained for 12 weeks to break camp, and then the other option, honestly, was to fight in October, November. When you've trained for 12 weeks, then after that, come down, you have 3 or 4 weeks off, then you go back and you do another 8 or 9 weeks. We want to fight Deontay Wilder. We know December's unlikely, but we're still being told, and we were told as recently as 2 days ago or 3 days ago, whenever it was, you will be fighting. And he wants, and if he doesn't take this fight on Saturday, he won't fight Wilder in December or January, because he'll end up fighting October or November.
What about fight fans already? And many listening this morning, say I've got my heart set on, I bought a ticket, I want to go and see Joshua Whyte. So it's not happening. And I don't fancy Joshua Helenius. What happens?
Well, I think you haven't done your research, Jim. You get a refund.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's as simple as that.
I mean, look, absolutely. I would, we
so
do
you
this
expect
every time.
a lot of people coming to you for a refund?
I think it's a great heavyweight night. I think if you don't feel like you're getting value, you can get a refund. It's very simple. We have a very standard procedure, and we're fair to all customers. I think it's a great heavyweight night. I think it's a good heavyweight fight. I think it's a great undercard, but we also understand it's not what you bought a ticket for. So if you want a refund and you don't want a great heavyweight night on Saturday, you can get one. So and also at the same time, it's not on pay-per-view. It's part of your DAZN subscription. I think there's a lot of people, that we know the pay-per-view argument, but it's designed to generate the revenue to make bigger fights. That's unfortunately the way the system works. It's not. But, we can't be fairer than that. Ultimately, it's something that happened that was out of my control, out of AJ's control, and we have to deal with the circumstances. And I think in the circumstances, we've acted swiftly. Don't forget as well, there's more than 10, there's 16 other fighters on the card who have trained for 12 weeks. Fighters only get paid when they fight. You've got fighters like even the younger lot who aren't even on the main broadcast. You've got George Liddard, you've got Campbell Hatton, you've got Maisie Rose. These guys have trained for 12 weeks. They only get paid if they fight. They're the ones that are contacting me faster than anybody on Monday saying, please keep the fight on.
People are making noises about Hrgovic fighting him. First of all, he's not prepared for Hrgovic, and Hrgovic is the mandatory IBF. Right? He's going to beat Dempsey McKean, so he's not going to go in against Anthony Joshua and give up the opportunity to be the next cab off the rank against Alexander Usyk.
And also, he's had a 12-week camp for a southpaw. So it's not as easy.
You've got to be fair.
Yeah, and I think there'll always be Twitter moans, but I think in general, most people go, fair enough, good night, let's get on with it, and let's see AJ put what I believe, and I'm not just saying this, I think he's in the best I've seen him physically, mentally. And that's why I was so disappointed, because I think either way you're going to get a great performance, but he must box on Saturday.
The thing is, Eddie, this is deja vu all over again, as you rightly said. You didn't pull Ben Eubank straight away, and you faced criticism for that when Ben failed a couple of tests. But you pulled this one straight away. Mm-hmm. So what's the difference?
Well, I think there's quite a few differences. I mean, firstly, the tests, the results, the substances were very different. Secondly, the conversations between the teams were different. Don't forget, that was a co-promotion, the Ben Eubank fight. This was a pure Matchroom promotion. When we spoke to Wasserman and the team, they wanted to investigate the situation further. There was a lot of cloud over the fact that the board don't recognise VADA because they've done it previously. And Eubank's team said, after taking medical advice, they were willing to proceed with the bout, subject to what the British Boxing Board of Control have to say. In this instance, AJ and his team looked at the results, wanted to terminate the contract immediately. We had 1 week to go. And I will say, hands up, we learnt a lot last time. It was a fresh situation that we had to deal with in terms of sanctioning and also who governs what in terms of testing agencies.
But to be fair, Eddie, I understand your position, but that's not strictly true, because the rule was in place and you knew it was in place, and you argued with me last time emphatically, and where I will concede, your point that you made last time is about your inability to stop this fight, because you and I debated the fight with Conor Benn, and I said you could have stopped it. And you said I couldn't have stopped it. I needed the British Boxing Board of Control to stop it. I needed their sanctioning or non-sanctioning to put me in that position. And then, of course, that I argued about the fact you have a representation agreement. You said you don't. So I need the bout agreement to be stopped, right? But you took 48 hours to do it. And you've got your partner in the fight, your fight partner in Callie Sowland, on the day after the fact that you guys have been announced. You were told on the Tuesday evening, according to Robert Smith, October the 4th, this fight is going to be pulled by us. We're not going to sanction it.
Wednesday morning.
No, he told. Well,
no, he didn't,
then he's a liar. Then
well, absolutely. Right? If he's told you that, then he is.
But he's told me that, and that's indelible.
Then he's lying.
Right. So he's saying on October the 4th, he told you guys. So then between then, or the 48 hours, or the 36 hours, your fight partner told everybody in the world that you and he and all the parties were looking at other options. You didn't say it. He said it. Right. But that's not. So he's either not talking correctly about what you didn't do, but it was a 36-hour gap. In this instance, your boy, Frank Smith, had a conversation with Robert Smith on Friday, and they pulled the fight instantaneously.
Friday what, sorry?
This Friday just gone.
No, he didn't.
Well, according to Robert Smith, he did. So you had a conversation.
Hold on.
Hold on.
Let's clear up a few things, because you're waffling some...
No, I'm not waffling.
No, you are. Because you're talking like it's fact. You have to listen to what I say.
But I'm telling you the facts that I've been
told.
told.
So you're telling me...
your version
Okay, you're telling me, I mean, you can clear this up after.
Yeah.
Robert Smith told you that he had a conversation with Frank Smith
to cancel
on
the fight.
Friday. Just gone.
Correct.
Okay. The first knowledge that we had of this situation was on Saturday in the early hours of the morning.
Take that
so
with
Robert Smith
take it up with the British Boxing Board of Control.
A complete liar.
Yeah.
These
are the things, Eddie, that I think that you need to be careful of.
No, but I think you need to be careful, because you come out with what you state as facts. What actually aren't.
Eddie, it's very simple, right?
No, but you walk around. I spoke to him.
It's very simple, Eddie.
You're a journalist.
There is I'm not a journalist.
Yes, you are. You're a disc jockey.
No,
you spoke to Eddie. No, but you are.
Eddie,
you can't wander around the industry going, I was speaking to the chairman of the British Boxing Board of Control.
And you're your dad's son, whose business you inherited, right? So we can all throw out silly comments, right?
Let's wait. I want to address that. I want to address that. 1 second. No, I want to address that 1 second. No, I haven't finished.
I hadn't finished.
Because now you're talking about my father, you're talking about what I've inherited, and I'll say one thing now. You've got this bee in your bonnet. I don't know what it is.
I don't.
You brought it up on Twitter the other day.
I don't.
You just brought it up again now.
Because
you
I think
inherited your daddy's business.
Because
now let's get one thing right. You have done very well.
Yes.
And so have I.
Yeah.
This is what you did. You took a company, start-up, to
different
what
to
you say. Yeah, totally different.
to you.
We all play the hands we're dealt.
We do indeed.
You took a start-up company.
We do indeed.
To what you say was £100 million company, lost a lot. Don't worry.
No, you don't. You don't know that, Eddie. Don't redirect into silly conversations.
Hold on, because I'm giving each other a pat on the back.
Hang on, we're talking about the consequences of a situation that's manifested itself. You took, whether it was 48 hours, you took 36.
I'm going back.
You took
to the
30. You took 36 hours. Eddie, you're the one that makes.
Well, let's get back on track. Let's get back on track, though.
I want to finish it.
I think people listening want to know what happened regards to the fight.
Okay.
Irrespective of what you two, how you two have got to where you got to, or wherever.
Okay. All I was doing was.
Here's the thing. You were correcting my view.
No. Here's the thing. I want to ask you
this.
this.
It wasn't a view.
I want to ask you this.
You were stating it as fact.
Well, I think it is.
But Simon.
Because I think you were and people won't say it to you.
Get Robert Smith on the phone. Go on.
Oh, fine.
Get him
on the phone. Happy to.
Get him on.
Well, we can get Robert Smith on the phone.
I don't need to.
Because I don't see how the chairman...
I don't need to.
You don't need to.
Hang on. I can play the audio from the interview that he did.
When?
So I don't need the audio. He did an interview with me in March of this year. It's a fact.
You're talking about
it's
the Dillian White situation.
And in this conversation...
You're telling you spoke to him this week. He apparently had a conversation with us before we even knew about it.
Did it take you 36 hours? I say 48 hours to cancel the Benn Eubank fight. Did it take you 36 hours or 48 hours? Because it definitely took
less than 24.
It definitely took you 36.
No, from their decision.
But you didn't cancel it until Thursday evening.
No, we didn't. We had a press conference on Thursday afternoon,
right,
where it was already cancelled. It was announced.
So
get your facts.
So maybe 32 hours.
Get your facts.
Maybe 32 hours.
Not even 24. The fact of the matter is already. What we will do is take it.
And you know you are.
No,
you're lying, Eddie. You're lying, Eddie. You just misrepresent Eddie.
Simon. Stay calm. Stay calm. Because you're going red again. Listen.
I'm not going red.
You are. The blood pressure's out of control. You've got to calm
in this
yourself.
instance.
Listen.
In this instance, you cancelled it promptly. So well done you.
Thank you.
Well done you. But you know what? Here's the thing you couldn't do. not even you, in your most brazen snake oil salesman guise, could get away with delaying this particular one.
No, we didn't. No,
Yes, you did.
No, we
Callie Sowland, who's your business partner.
hang on,
But it's a fact, Eddie.
But
Those
it
are
all
interviews
started
that you've
so
done.
well as well, didn't
Callie
it? It all
Sowland
started so
spoke
well.
on your behalf, saying that all parties sat around considering all options.
Correct.
So that means
That was.
considering all options. So when the British Boxing Board of Control, who have the authority, which you said they didn't have in the last interview that we discussed,
Which we
and
found out
they
they
subsequently found out they did.
No.
And as a blue chip promoter, I would have thought that you knew it. I did know it, but you didn't. But by the way, if you don't know 10 times as much as me, what the hell have you been doing all your life? Because you bloody well should do. But the point is, you sat in this. You
know nothing.
By,
And the reality
by
is,
the
you keep
nature of
making
what
up these
suits
numbers.
you.
We found out
But it's
Wednesday
not true, Eddie.
morning.
It's not true, Eddie, is it?
Yes, it is true.
And you didn't
Because
stop the
you
fight
waffle.
until 36 hours later.
So in the last few minutes, we spoke to Robert Smith of the British Boxing Board of Control. And I'm just hearing at this stage that Frank Smith, who works for you at Matchroom, was notified of the Dillian Whyte adverse analytical findings in the drugs test, was notified of this news on Saturday.
Everybody was.
On Saturday.
Thank you. So we can move back and apologise.
Yes,
but
Robert Smith doesn't want to
okay,
come
no,
on.
it's fine.
What I would say is
Simon,
this.
what I would say is
No,
this,
no,
and I'll
it's
jump
fine,
in here.
because I would say so.
Did you?
I'm happy to accept that.
Was your information that Frank Smith found out Friday?
Correct.
Is
It
was. Right.
And, no, all I'm
Correct.
All
And
I'm
Robert's
saying.
now texts me saying Saturday morning.
Okay.
But that's not what he said.
Okay.
Just so we're clear.
Just so you know, not everything you say is factual. Okay.
I didn't say it was.
So.
I'm
Apology accepted.
I'm advancing
Thank
a
you.
position
It's okay.
based
It's
upon
okay.
substance.
It's okay.
I'm based.
But it's the way you deliver it.
But-
You over there, Frank Smith
But
spoke to
Eddie-
him on Friday. You know.
Eddie, that's irrelevant.
Sorry's
isn't it?
fine. Sorry's fine.
But the actual sting.
Sorry's
of the,
fine.
But the actual, hang on. It's
Sorry's
childish,
fine.
Eddie. Right, you
I'm
got
not being
it.
child-
We've got it. Right.
It's fine.
But
You
here's
were right,
But
Eddie.
here's the point.
You were right, Eddie.
At the end of the
You
conversation.
were right, Eddie. Sorry's fine.
Eddie.
No, but it's fine.
At the end of the conversation.
But it's fine. It's okay.
The
You're
actual
wrong.
the actual analysis was that you guys acted promptly.
No.
Now,
What
whether
you
that was
tried to
Friday
do.
or Saturday.
No, what you tried to do.
No, hang
was
on,
say
I
that
think
we
you're
still
both
wait-
talking
you're
over
still-
each other.
anyway,
The
it doesn't
bottom line
matter.
is we
It
now
doesn't
know.
matter.
Eddie, you're missing
We
the
now
point.
know.
The previous
You're missing the point.
the previous chapter was incorrect. I accept the apology. Let's move on.
Eddie,
Okay, so we'll move on.
I need to make this point, Jim. The observation was very clear.
Sorry.
Whether it was Friday or Saturday. I haven't
Sorry.
finished, Eddie. It's
I
not
don't
your show.
care if you finish.
It's not your,
I
it's
don't
not your
care.
show. You're a
As
guest.
you're glad I'm on because
but
last time I gave you your biggest numbers.
I couldn't care less
You
if you were on,
could
Eddie.
because that's how you get
Eddie,
rewarded.
stop being
for-
childish.
I'm not going.
Let's
You're losing the plot. You're going a
Actually,
little
Gareth
bit
Southgate
silly
beat that
and
audience
giggly.
the other day.
Let's
Yeah, it's
focus.
true, isn't it?
Let's focus
But
on the
what,
subject
I've got
matter.
beat. By who?
Eddie,
got beaten, Eddie.
Eddie,
Who by?
let's focus on the subject matter. What you did, whether it was Friday or Saturday,
Simon.
Eddie,
But-
Eddie, you
Eddie-
acted promptly,
Thank you.
right? But
But-
you didn't act promptly the last
No,
time.
correct. We
Right.
learnt from that.
That was it then.
But what I will
Right,
say
so we're
is,
agreed on that.
last
So we're
time you
agreed then.
said you still did this. You spoke to him Friday. We know we didn't. We got it Saturday. We cancelled it on
You
Saturday.
acted promptly.
Yes, and we learned.
Eddie, at
We actually
11:26, we'll
But
get
don't try
we'll
and
head
say
to
we waited
we'll head to
again.
another
We
break.
didn't.
I didn't say
at
you
11.
did.
We'll head to another break.
I
at
said you went
11:30.
early.
You
Guys,
said
what I
Bloody
can't.
fool, you went early.
You asked
I'm
me.
giving you more credit.
There's no
Thank
point.
you.
You
There's
went
no
earlier.
About time.
There's no
I'm
point.
giving you more
About
credit.
time.
So
Simon,
give
Eddie, there's no,
facts.
there is no point.
Silly.
Look,
I mean, somebody's saying a
let-
charity fight that'll get them sorted.
Let's move on.
Let's move on, Eddie.
Apology accepted.
Adverse analytical findings. What more can you tell us about this? And where's White's head at the moment?
Well, I don't represent. Firstly, I don't represent Dillian, so I can't talk on his behalf. What I can say is, I'm surprised. I'm in shock. He's had this VADA testing. He's employed it, with meticulously over his career. I had an email from his team as early as this morning to say, obviously, there's a strict confidentiality on his behalf, not on my behalf, and he's got a big fight on his hands. A big fight on his hands, of which, we'll let him go through that process and see how it pursues. But I was in big shock, and as I said, on Saturday when we found out about it, I was definitely surprised, and he's got a tough road ahead.
When did they have the tests, out of curiosity?
Again, I can't disclose that,
Why's
but
that?
why? Because it's a confidential for Dillian
On what
White.
basis?
There's a
The date of the
confidentiality.
test is confidential.
Yes, it is.
Right.
That can come out. But
Who did the testing?
VADA.
Nothing to do with drug-free sports and
No.
that stuff
No.
that's going on there, which we'll talk to you about in a minute.
It's nothing to do.
No?
Drug-free sport are another credible agency
Oh, I know who they
used
are.
by, I think, the NBA
No, I know
or
who
the
they are.
NFL.
I know who they
and-
are,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I know it would come as a
I
shock to
can
you,
tell
Eddie,
you
because you're
that-
trying to put the fight together. But
Absolutely.
again, the sport of boxing, the name of boxing's in the gutter, isn't it?
It's not good. It's not good. I mean, the good news is that if someone does have illegal substances in their body,
They're getting discovered.
you want that to
Come
as
to the
Simon said,
surface.
to be discovered.
Are you a big fan of strict liability?
Yes, and I think I am, but I also am a believer that an athlete needs an opportunity to explain themselves.
Of course. But as a principle,
I do
you're a big
also
fan
have an
you
issue.
believe in strict liability.
Yeah, I think that you have a responsibility as an athlete. I also don't feel. I think it's very harsh for an athlete to be to have their career and their livelihood taken away from them if, in fact, they are innocent.
Of course.
In a respect of contamination.
But the principle of strict liability you believe in?
Yes. I think ultimately, and in this instance as well, you know, although all situations are different, we get to a stage 1 week out, and I don't know Dillian Whyte necessarily well enough. I haven't looked into the science enough. I would like to think that he's innocent because I don't like the fact that he would have tried to gain an advantage in this fight. But also, we can't ignore the situation. And I always said that in the Conor Benn situation. I agree we can't ignore it.
But you sought to.
No, we didn't sought to. We gave the responsibility to the British Boxing Board of Control. We've been in this conversation 100 times. No, subsequently.
Yeah. You're seeking on the Conor Benn situation, and you're on record talking about the reality of he's been cleared.
I've let Conor Benn go through the processes that he's been required to do.
It's his choice, isn't it?
Okay.
But you're on record. You said it the other day that he's cleared himself, and given the fact you believe in strict liability, he hasn't cleared himself because he's gone through VADA. They don't have a strict liability code attached to it, and he also hasn't gone through the processes of doing anything other than having the issue turn on jurisdiction.
No.
Which you said the other day wasn't the case.
Actually incorrect. And certainly,
okay,
that's actually incorrect. You'll find out.
Were you at the hearing?
No, I wasn't at the hearing.
So how do you know it's incorrect?
Because I know, having spoken to his lawyers and being part of the team, what happened at that hearing. But let me just reverse a little bit, okay? Conor Benn went through the appropriate party...
WBC, on the clean boxing program test, right?
And was deemed of any wrongdoing and reinstated into the rankings.
No, that's not true.
If you read the report...
I've read the report.
Okay, it was actually, okay?
No, he wasn't.
They believe that he didn't...
No, what they gave him was a defence. What his 270-page report gave them was a reasons why he should be cleared, which was basically contamination of equipment.
Actually not, because that wasn't included in the 270-page document.
The 270-page document had observations about contamination in VADA's testing.
Nothing to do with the results of the WBC findings, actually.
Correct.
Now, the bottom line is this. Eddie, to be fair to you, you've moved quickly and you've got a replacement that you think is a credible replacement. In comes Robert Helenius. The fight goes on Saturday night. No Dillian Whyte. He's wondering if he's got a career at all. And Helenius goes in against Anthony Joshua. But let's go down this route now about Anthony Joshua. Are the AJ camp, Eddie, too precious when it comes to criticism? Or is that just boxing in general? On this... They've had an agenda against me, and talkSPORT's part of that agenda against me. This is AJ on that subject.
When everyone's favourite at talkSPORT fought Otto Wallin and went 12 rounds, no one and bust his eye open, no one complained. Andy Joshua goes 12 rounds with Jermaine Franklin. It's like, what's happened to the heavyweight division? Why is that? What is the problem with me going 12 rounds?
Does it annoy you that people say, well, Anthony Joshua, the fire seems to have left him, the fight seems to have left him?
It just makes me curious as to why. That's why I asked you the question. Why do you think that is? Where one does it versus another, but you can clearly see that there's two different comparisons. So it's what it is. But let's be clear on what it is as well. There is, let's call it an attack on my name, especially on this talkSPORT radio station. Yeah, there is definitely an attack on my name. But it's fine. It's fine, you know, in this industry you have to have a thick skin, but it's good to talk about it. Like, that was just one example of many I could point out on how there's parallel comparisons, but one gets dug out a lot more.
So Anthony Joshua believes there's an agenda against him, and there's an agenda here at talkSPORT against him. I mean, Eddie, as you're a fighter, he shouldn't believe that because there isn't an agenda.
Yeah, I don't know, agenda. I think that he definitely gets treated with different energy from some of the media. But
talkSPORT specifically.
Are you going to let me talk?
I'm just saying talkSPORT specifically.
Yes. I think that ultimately, when you are the size of AJ and one of the biggest stars in British sport, you are going to be a topic of conversation. Right. And once that conversation unfolds, you're going to get people talking positively and negatively. So that sometimes, I think the main thing is I don't think, you know, his counterpart, which is Tyson Fury. I mean, when we go back to the Alexander Usyk situation, we all know that, and I know specifically because I worked with him for 5 or 6 fights, the easiest person to do a deal with in the heavyweight division is Alexander Usyk, okay? And the fight with Tyson Fury against Alexander Usyk was so simple to make, and ultimately Fury chose not to take that fight. I believe.
But how do you know that, Eddie? That's not a fight negotiation that you're privy to. If someone said that to
I'm
you,
sure you were. I bet you were in a room, weren't you?
If somebody said,
You
said
negotiated
to
the deal.
you, if somebody said to you that the fights that you do are easy to negotiate, the first riposte you'd have is, how do you know you're not in the room? Now, this observation about Anthony Joshua being treated in a different way to Tyson Fury, I don't know about you guys, but for some of you guys that have so much to say for yourself, you have the thinnest skins.
I don't.
I'm not sitting. You were also after you had a conversation with Spencer Oliver. Can I finish?
Go on.
Thank you. You said to Spencer Oliver that he's one of the few people that have got the back of Matchroom and Anthony Joshua in the conversation. No, you did.
Anthony Joshua.
Right. Oh, Anthony Joshua.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to be balanced in the view. I look at Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury in the same respect. Right. I hate the Ngannou fight. I think he stunk the place out against Otto Wallem. I think that the Derek Chisora fight was an absolute pup, right? And I think he says far too much in the media and doesn't back it up. I think he makes bets with people he doesn't pay up on. I think it's poor. Right? And on the other side of the argument, I think Anthony Joshua has done things that I've disagreed with on that principle. So I think the bulk of people, certainly in this building, look at it from that point of view and go, criticism where criticism's due, praise where praise is due. But you guys running around spinning this yarn about the fact that there is an unconscious bias or a conscious bias towards diminishing Anthony Joshua is preposterous and trite.
Actually, if I can jump in, I don't think you do that, Eddie.
I've never. I mean,
but we've certainly heard from AJ there.
It's what you said.
And this man to my right,
Eddie.
may I say, Eddie, this man to my right here. Sure, Fury gave us a decent interview before the fight against White up at Wembley, and of course it was all pals. But you have weighed in on Fury for some of the ridiculous things he said. And Fury has come after not only Simon but me fairly publicly. And we go with it because it's part of the territory, Eddie. And it seems to me
like
that AJ, who I admire a lot,
what you
seems
feel
very thin-skinned on this one.
are two different things.
But you don't let the facts get in the way. You just go with what you feel. But the energy's different, Simon.
No, it's not.
Look at.
How do you mean the energy's different?
I think when we're debating this now, and you're talking about Tyson Fury, and you talk about all the things that he did, I don't see you spit it with any venom or any passion. Really.
So when I write
an
article in a newspaper and turn around and say he's a disgrace to boxing, you don't think that's spitting facts?
When my name gets mentioned or something, I see the blood pressure rise. I see the venom. I don't know what it is.
When your name gets mentioned?
No, yeah, like shall I tell you the only thing that you and I have ever disagreed upon? The only thing is the way that you handled Conor Benn.
Yeah, we get that.
I have spoken about you and to you about the nature of the things that you do. I've also been clearly understanding of the way that you pay your fighters and the fact that you deal with them in a certain way. So I have been as complimentary about you as I have been derogatory. And the only issue is when you sit across the table from me and you about things like you did last time round, and what you do is you go, I tell you what.
So you're doing it again.
Did you watch your language?
But you do it now. You've lost your temper again. You're getting silly.
No, I'm not being silly.
Because you're going all flustered
I'm
again.
not flustered.
Eddie,
stop. You're not in a position of authority, so don't try and diminish me.
But what you do is
But you can't
go
tell me
back
what
and
I'm
say,
doing.
oh well, I did. You haven't done that. So what are you talking about?
Eddie, you're making an observation that I have a different attitude towards you than I do towards, say, Frank Warren or Ben Shalom.
I think that's 100% correct.
And I have a different attitude towards you on the basis of one subject matter. One subject matter.
No.
I think your behaviour over the Conor Benn situation was a disgrace.
Well, okay.
And I think that under the board's regulations, I think you should be brought up in front of them and served with a dispute notice.
That's your dream.
Because
that's not going to happen.
It's not a dream.
But it is.
I think the sport is bigger than you.
Look at the energy.
And if Frank,
of all the things that have
Frank
happened,
Warren had done the same
not a bad thing, Eddie.
But it's not energy here.
But it is.
But it's focus, Eddie.
It's not.
It's
because
focus.
You can see you don't have the same energy on anything else.
But don't be
because
silly.
You've got this
I just
really
sat on a show.
little something in
I
your
just
eye.
sat on a show. Don't be a child, Eddie.
spitting.
I just sat on a show with Frank Warren 4 weeks ago and said to him, "You're a disgrace for this Ngannou fight. It's a disgrace." And you'll see a podcast that comes out on Thursday where I spend 20 minutes of that show going to him, I'm not having this, Frank. What you're doing with this fight is not to do with the boxing world, it's to do with money, and you're not going to get away without saying it, right? So when you turn around and try to diminish the argument by reducing the facts and reducing it to a conversation which is based upon personalities rather than the facts, I have no motivation besides thinking that your behaviour over Conor Benn and the way that you represented that fight and what you let that kid go through was nothing more than a disgrace.
And just to be clear on that, at the end of July, UKAD announced that they have lifted Conor Benn's provisional suspension for a failed drugs test last year after he was cleared by the independent National Anti-Doping Panel. So Conor Benn says he's free to fight in the UK again. And Eddie, before you go today, you might be able to tell us when that will be. But here's the thing, Simon.
Was he cleared, Eddie? Do you think he was cleared?
His suspension was lifted and he's
But do you
cleared
think
to
he was
fight.
cleared because you said he was?
Yes, I believe he
Cleared
is.
on what
I mean,
basis? Jurisdiction
on-
or
no,
the
no,
fact that he's
on-
accounted for the
on the basis
because you believe
of-
in strict liability, yes?
Yeah, on the basis
Which he
of-
hasn't
hold on,
faced.
hold on.
Right, hang on.
Hold on. If you are not fined, if you are not found guilty, if your suspension is lifted, if you are cleared to fight by UKAD, which you are, which he is, that cannot be disputed.
But who has the overriding control over this process?
UKAD.
British Boxing Board
No,
of Control.
no. Read the rules. British Boxing Board of
31.5.
Control.
You
British
read
Hold on. British Boxing Board of Control follow UKAD's procedures. Now, hold on. Let me finish.
And they can also follow any other recognised laboratory, right? And UKAD have been excluded on the back of the WBC clean boxing program. Has his B samples been submitted?
Yes,
They have.
that process.
Right.
This has all been submitted in.
So
do
Ben
you
is free to
consider
fight
him
again
to be
in the
cleared?
UK.
He has been his suspension.
But do you consider him
Yes.
to be cleared?
Yes. He is cleared.
So given the fact you believe in strict liability,
Hold on.
and he hasn't gone through strict liability, so now you're contradicting your argument.
Simon, I'm not. I'm just saying. You asked him to go through a process.
No.
Let me finish.
No, we didn't. Nobody
No,
did.
everybody did.
Nobody did.
No, hold on.
They
when
said,
he
as
when
a
he
licence
got
holder,
listen,
he must face the board,
okay.
didn't they?
Everybody said. Okay, he's gone through the
As a
WBC.
licence holder,
Hang
he
on.
should.
It's like there's no point even talking. You're not going to let me speak.
Okay.
He went through the WBC process. We know he was reinstated into the rankings. Okay. You say he was cleared on it or whatever he was. But
I'm
then-
asking you.
Yes, no, he was. Then everyone said he has to go through the board's rules and regulations. And we said we want Conor Benn to be licensed by the British Boxing Board of Control. Let me just finish, okay? So then he made the decision to go through. UKAD
In March.
suspended him,
Yep.
okay? Conor Benn made the decision to fight it, to go through the situation, to go through the hearing, and to do what everybody was asking him to do.
Right.
He went through that process. His suspension was lifted.
Correct.
And they did not ban him or suspend him. And in that respect, he is clear to fight by the UK anti-doping.
Eddie, Simon's point is this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Simon. You talked, Eddie, about giving Conor Benn great support when this whole thing blew up in his face, and the boy was shattered, as Dillian White is shattered. But Simon's allegation, and again, correct me, Simon, if I'm out of line here, is that you didn't really come up to the proper level of support you purported to give Ben wasn't evident. Had it been so, you would have steered him away from some of the things that he did and he said.
It's slightly more
but
succinct than
I would
that.
say this, Jim, in answer to your question. I'm not Conor Benn's manager, okay? He did a lot of things off his own back. He was extremely emotional. I never gave him advice on PR because he had his own PR ideas. I never gave him legal advice because he had his own lawyers. But what I did was publicly, which, by the way...
Support him.
By the way,
Yeah.
I mean, I've had, I'm not bothered. I've had a year of stick on it where I could have said, mate, you're on your own. You've got to go through this process. Every day publicly, I've backed Conor Benn.
Shall I tell you why in
Just
part you got
one
to stick,
second,
Eddie?
1 second. Because I believed the kid. And I wasn't prepared to hang him out to dry.
And that's fine. And
Okay?
let's take that point at face value. You then spent time running around calling the British Boxing Board of Control liars. You then spending time telling everyone had an agenda. You then spent time trying to make fights with a fighter that's in bad standing against fighters that are in good standing. I want the guys that came in the studio last time round with this clinical evidence that proves clinically that Conor Benn couldn't have taken this drug into his system through drug can only have come in through a food chain. I want that argument to be run. That argument hasn't been run. The only argument that's been run, and it was run by his lawyers and UKAD's lawyers and the board's lawyers sat there as mutes, was the argument around jurisdiction. That is
said he won the case
that
around
is not
jurisdiction.
clearing
It's not
himself,
actually
and
true.
that is not following your logic of believing in strict liability.
No, but-
now, talking about drug testing, Eddie, what's this situation going on with this drug-free sport, where there's this conversation going on, and I hear that you are involved with drug-free sports, and that matchroom fighters are going to be tested by drug-free sport, and the results are going to be provided to matchroom, and matchroom are going to be the adjudicator of those. Absolute rubbish.
Absolute rubbish. Drug-free sport is a credible testing agency. I think they work with the NFL.
Is there any truth in the allegation that your fighters are being tested by them, and that the results come back to you, and that you are the adjudicator of the positive tests? Categorically. Absolute rubbish. Has there been any fights where this has happened so far?
Drug-free testing have tested our athletes before.
Right.
Absolutely.
Recently?
And, not, I think, in the last, I don't know, 3-6 months, but we do use drug-free sport, as do the NBA, I think the NFL or NHL, wherever it is.
Nothing wrong with them, but the fact that you, as matchroom,
absolutely.
get the
results. Just to put your mind at rest, Simon, before anyone thinks that might be factual.
You've denied it.
Absolutely. We would never.
Eddie, here's the deal.
I would like to think
Conor Benn. When does he fight again, and where does he fight again?
Well, the process now is, and just going back to Simon's point about me trying to make fights. When the WBC reinstated him in the rankings and we went through that process, yes, we were looking at his options to fight again. We got a lot of heat for him to go through the British Boxing Board of Control and UKAD. He did that. We know what happens. I want him to, 100%, and he wants to as well, be licensed by the British Boxing Board of Control. I do not believe, and again, when we talk about difference in energy, I do not believe that any fighter from Britain who fights in Britain or even fights anywhere in the world should not be licensed by the British Boxing Board of Control. Okay?
Right. Yeah. So when Conor turned around and refused to face the British Boxing Board of Control and told them to do one, right? He is in effect the architect of his own downfall by that kind of conduct.
I think it was a bad decision.
And so when we're in a situation now, do you accept that the British Boxing Board of Control have the ability to be able to intercede in this situation, because ultimately they have jurisdiction over whether Conor Benn can be licensed again, and the consequences of Conor Benn potentially not being licensed, because in fact he hasn't gone through strict liability, he's only gone through a process where the WBC gave him a defence, right?
And UKAD lifted his suspension.
And UKAD, because of a technicality over jurisdiction, lifted his defence, which you said they didn't do.
Well,
there's been no medical evidence, Eddie. You know it and I know it. And it will come out clear, and it will be seen in clear time, right? So we haven't gone through the process. You, as a strict liability exponent, are suggesting that he's passed tests. He's now gone past it. He's been cleared because he went through a situation where there was no strict liability. And now we've got a situation where the British Boxing Board of Control potentially have the gift to appeal. Do you expect them to appeal?
Nothing would surprise me. I don't think. I mean,
but given their rule, and they are the sanctioning board. They are the people that license the fighter, and he was a licensed fighter at that time. So irrespective of whether he tore his license up because he didn't want to deal with it for whatever reason, and he was going to get fined for some behaviour, irrespective of what the background is, he has to be licensed by them to fight on these shores. And anyone that fights him, whether it's a trainer or promoter that promotes him, who is a licence holder, is caught by the same obligation.
Right, and that's what you're striving to do.
To
get licensed to fight.
Oh, absolutely. No, we want to go through the process
because you want him to fight in the UK.
Yeah, but he has. What process do you want him to go through?
With the British Boxing Board of Control now.
Right. So you do think they'll appeal?
No, I actually don't think they'll appeal.
So you don't want him to go through a process then?
No, but the process of applying for a licence. This is where you're. Right. It's all over the place.
Okay.
He's gone through the UKAD process. Okay. Suspension lifted, not banned, not suspended, cleared to fight. Now.
But the UKAD process is strict liability, isn't it?
Simon, he's gone through.
But Eddie,
there was a result.
Is the UKAD process strict liability?
No, he's gone through.
Eddie. It's a simple question.
No, but
is the UKAD process strict liability?
All I'm telling you is he's been asked to go through a process which
on jurisdiction,
suspension,
not strict liability.
He's not suspended. He's not banned. He's not. I don't know what else. But Eddie, you need to know.
I need to pin you down on this because you and I both know that what you're suggesting is a misdirection. He hasn't been cleared.
He has.
He's had a suspension lifted on the basis of a jurisdiction.
Okay. He's
not strict liability.
He's not been banned.
UKAD can't clear him.
He's not.
Can they?
But so all of a sudden,
UKAD parameters are strict liability.
If you're on bail and you get found not guilty and cleared, and you're no longer, it's the same with him. He was suspended.
For the layman, has he got a bit to do yet, Eddie, before he can fight again?
Yes, he has to apply for a British Boxing Board of Control license.
There we go.
And that's what we want to do.
And if he gets that licence, he can fight in the UK.
Absolutely. That's what he hasn't. He's not run from this situation. I think immediately after, I think he made some bad decisions, right?
Right.
And after he calmed down, and I was one of the people that said, you have to go through this process. We want you to fight in Britain, and I would never let a fighter fight in Britain. Conor Benn is already licensed. I'm not going into the details. He's already licensed, okay?
What, in America?
He can, if he wants, apply, like Tyson Fury.
But he cannot fight a British boxing board controlled licensed fighter, can he?
If you hear what I'm just about to say, then you'll see
On you
that
go.
it's irrelevant. As someone with a license already, right? He can apply for permission to box in the UK, okay? Like Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury has a Nevada boxing license. When he fights in the UK, he asks for permission to box, okay? That's an example, and quite a few fighters have actually got that situation. I don't want Conor to do that. I want him to have a British Boxing Board of Control licence.
Right.
It's been a year and a half since
so he can fight other licensed British boxing board control fighters,
if
right?
he has
and so you can promote him,
but he
and so
doesn't,
that people can train him and people can spar with him, yes?
Conor Benn's not fighting on Saturday night.
You don't have to have a British Boxing Board of Control licence to be allowed to fight a British fighter.
If you're in good standing.
Yes, exactly.
He's not in good standing, is he?
You need permission to box.
He's not in good standing.
We would still go through that. We would still go through that procedure, as do a lot of other fighters. What I'm saying is, I don't want him to be an internationally licensed fighter. I want him to have a British Boxing Board of Control licence.
Do you think, Eddie, that during the course of the last 12 months, given the fact, it's undeniable, Eddie, that you took 32 hours, 25 hours, 26 hours, 36 hours
about 24
to follow the direct instructions from the British Boxing Board of Control to suspend this fight. Your fight partner turned around and said you considered other options. You said that's not the case, but he said you did, right? He's either stupid or that speaks for himself and doesn't speak for you. You then spent the last 12 months telling the British Boxing Board of Control, the governing body, that at times they're liars and they're incompetent and don't do their jobs very well. You then spent time trying to solicit and elicit fights for Conor Benn and people like Chris Eubank Jr.
No,
you did.
No.
You did.
No,
You
Simon,
talked about it.
You're wrong again, and you make yourself sound silly.
All right.
If you're licensed, it's not an illicit fight. You don't have to fight a British fighter. That's up to them.
No, you tried to make Eubank. You tried to make. Hang on,
Yes,
Eddie.
because
You tried to make Eubank Benn in Saudi,
Yeah.
and you knew that if Eubank went to Saudi, the British Boxing Board of Control stepped up and said, if he goes to Saudi, we're going to take his license away. So by making that fight suggestion,
that was actually
by making that fight suggestion, you put Eubank Jr.'s
I
professional.
don't represent Eubank Jr.
No,
What
but
are
you
talking
put
about?
him-
They were on to us to make that fight.
You put him
What
in
do
a
you think?
position.
We're a
But
begging
you're-
bowl.
but you're-
He's going to make
but
$5
you're a
million
blue
for
chip
that fight.
promoter, aren't you?
Yeah, but
You shouldn't be operating in that way, should you?
Nonetheless, I
we
don't think
want
you
to
two should
fight
go on holiday
Ben.
together.
You shouldn't be operating
We
that way.
Let me
to
jump
fight
in
Ben.
here.
You shouldn't be operating that way.
Eddie, we're going to finish with this. What can we expect on Saturday night? No
By the
delay
way, I
and
will
white.
say one thing as
In
well.
comes
I will
Hellenius.
say one thing about the Conor Benn situation,
Tell me.
right? It was which was been over a year ago.
No one's bothered about breaks, news bulletins or anything.
I made mistakes, okay, and I definitely didn't handle it perfectly. And I think, especially in that first,
Could you not have said that
24
10 minutes
I've said
ago?
it before. You know, I've said that before, that we've made mistakes in that process. I think in the first 24, 36 hours, whatever you want to call it, I definitely lost a rag, had too much ego,
And I can understand.
and actually, whether you agree or not, I think you're the type of person that, you know, likes to get front foot. I think you might have done something similar, whether you claim you wouldn't have, and we made mistakes. But that was a year ago. We've definitely learned. We definitely handled this situation much better. I don't know how much longer we're going to talk
But
about
you're spinning
what
yarns,
happened.
Eddie. Because
No.
the reasons why I say that it's only relevant now is because you're still spinning the yarn a week ago about Conor Benn. So that's the reason
Not
why it's
spinning
current.
the yarn.
I-
He went
and there
through
was-
the
I was
process
gonna
you asked
talk
him
up
for.
AJ
His
against
suspension was
Hellenius.
lifted. On Saturday night, you are going to see, subject to the opinion of talkSPORT, one of the greatest heavyweights of our modern generation. And when you look at the CV of Anthony Joshua, this is one thing that I think he doesn't get the credit for, okay? In his 15th fight, he boxed Dillian Whyte. And in his 16th fight, when he was a complete rookie, boxed Charles Martin, who, by the way, put up a good performance the other night, and everyone said that was a really tough fight for Jared Anderson. Apparently, when AJ beat him, when he was completely inexperienced, and he was 31-0 with 29 knockouts, he was just a bum. All of a sudden, he's a much better fighter now. AJ knocks him out. He fights Brazil. He fights Molina. He fights Klitschko as a pure rookie in front of 90,000. Beats him. Then he fights Takam. Then he unifies against Parker. Then he fights
But
Povetkin.
do you
Let me
accept
finish.
that people are
Let me
allowed to have
finish.
an opinion?
Let me
Yeah.
absolutely. And I'm
if
having
it's-
my
and if
opinion
it's-
right
and
now.
if it's
So you be
critical,
quiet.
it doesn't mean it's a
Then he
bias, does
fights
it?
one of the most dangerous heavyweights against Povetkin. He actually had glandular
Oh,
fever at
leave
the time.
off.
Then he fights what?
But
This
Povetkin
is
got
what-
flattened by Dillian Whyte.
Mate, that was about 4 years
Guys,
later.
No, it wasn't.
let's agree
What
to
do you mean it
disagree. Yeah, I can tell you this, Eddie. 2 bits of information for you. One, this show will be coming live from the weigh-in on Friday morning. Number 2, he ain't be there. He's not going to be there. It's myself and a whole bunch of talkSPORT
One thing
people
I will tell
who
you,
have no agenda against Anthony Joshua. Final point, then that's
final
it.
point is on Saturday. Listen, we had another kick in the nuts. We sit here today on Tuesday, ready to go. Big heavyweight night at the O2 on Saturday. I'm telling you now, AJ, and I'll tell you something as well. I'm going to read you a text quickly, okay? This is not a curveball, don't worry. But this is from Anthony Joshua. I'm sure he won't mind me saying this. When I found out the news, which was, as we've now established, on the early hours of Saturday morning, I didn't want to tell Anthony Joshua because it was 1 o'clock in the morning. And just in case he was up, I didn't want him to not sleep that night.
Take your time, Eddie. Crack on.
Okay. All right, Jim. And he replied, and he said, he sent it at 8:19 on Saturday morning when he woke up.
Easy to lose track of time, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And he said this, great morning. I can only imagine the time and effort you and your team have put into organising a fight night. Just to say sorry about the news. Thank you for all that you and Matchroom do for me. It's appreciated and I'll never take it for granted.
And what's the point of this text message?
The point
Self-aggrandising?
No. The point is, and I will say this now.
Tell me.
The world is full of jealous people, right?
Do you think that?
I do. And I'll tell you one thing now. This man who changed his life through the sport of boxing
is to be admired.
Can I just finish?
He's to be admired,
Let me do my
isn't he?
spiel. And then
Yeah, but
you
you're
can
taking
comment.
too long.
Okay. But I'm building up, Simon,
I know,
to the
but it's a
big
bit
moment.
Build up and then finish it.
What I'm saying is this. This young man who was going down the wrong path, got arrested, found boxing, it changed his life at Finchley ABC.
What are you, Eamon Andrews now?
Are you going to let me finish? I mean, there's that much. You're losing
Get
the plot
to
of
it then.
What I'm saying is
coming
this.
up to 10 past 12.
Respect this young man. He is
respected.
Let me finish.
He is respected.
Let me finish then.
Go on, final sentence.
He is one of the most purest souls. And in this country, what we love to do
is knock them down.
Is knock them down when
Okay.
they get to the top.
Eddie, I got the
Unfinished,
point.
Jim, 10 seconds. This guy has dedicated his life to the sport. One of the most purest souls. One of the most nicest men
Fair comment.
I have ever
Is
met.
he beyond criticism?
No, and that's okay.
There you go then.
But when you come from a world where you weren't built for the world that he ended up in, when you're not built,
Right.
you're a young
He
kid
should be
and he
praised.
cannot walk
He should be
Eddie, I
praised.
want to say
around.
two
He
things.
lives in a bubble.
Two things
Don't
from
worry
me.
about the bank balance.
I want to
You
thank
do.
you
Don't-
very
know
much.
You do.
And I
You
want
do.
to thank you very
My
much,
bank
Eddie.
balance is buzzing.
I want
Yours ain't, but
I
it
want
don't
to-
matter.
I want
would
to
you
thank
know? It doesn't-
Simon.
How would you know?
I want to thank you for being here again today, Eddie.
No problem.
And I appreciate
Can
you
we have a
coming in
smiley photo
sincerely.
this time?
Please do,
Yeah,
yes.
because you do
And a
that.
final point from
You were getting
me.
on my nerves a bit last time.
And I mean this. I can confirm, absolutely, there is no agenda in talkSPORT against Anthony Joshua. Believe it or believe it not.
But there is an agenda
I'm
against
telling
fibs.
you, there is no agenda.
Get him over there. Look.
Eddie, thanks for
Still
joining
going.
us.
But I don't like fibs.
A bit
Still
later
going.
than
I don't like
normal,
fibs.
but let's
King of
call it the
Fibbers.
12
I don't
noon
like Mr.
bulletin.
Facts.
Hearn and Jordan round 2.
Yes.
Enjoy it?
I did. You know, I think I had to pull him up on that because obviously he was telling fibs, of which it was uncovered. But listen, it's always a good debate. Always a heated debate. We're both very passionate. Just because he says something doesn't mean it's factually true, and he doesn't believe a lot of what I say. So most of the time, it's a fair fight.
I don't see it as an Eddie Hearn versus Simon Jordan. That's how other people bill it. I just see it as a frank exchange of views based upon Eddie Hearn being a very good operator and myself not really, I suppose, being prepared to put up with people saying things that I know or believe to not be true.
You can't say that he has the same energy towards other people. You know, the frothing at the mouth and the high blood pressure and the twitching. He don't do that with anyone else, but he's very good at what he does. Honestly, one of my favourite disc jockeys.
I don't think silly observations about whether he thinks I'm a disc jockey or not because I choose to do something because I'm in a position in life where I can do what I want and the media suits me right now and have a lot of fun doing it is of any relevance to the boxing world.
I don't know how many times we're going to go back to the Conor Benn situation. I know that we made mistakes. It was a long time ago, but we're looking forward to Saturday night and a big show at the O2.
I think it's important for a sport that those that are supposed to represent it in the best way represent it that way. But nice to see him. He looks well, and more importantly, make sure you guys out there get PSA levels tests because I've just come back from prostate cancer. Anyone that's watching this video mustn't allow themselves to be victim to prostate cancer.